So sort of to keep with that theme, the family's asked a few people to share a couple of memories. And the first I'd like to have share something is Jack Marsh. If you could come up here, share a couple things.
I know all of you know a lot about Art. The last time I saw Art was just a few months ago when he drove into my driveway with 2 big packages of apples. And I helped him carry them up to the kitchen, and he identified each apple. And his favorites were Fuji's. Now, Art had done that 4 or 5 times a year. Apples, pears, I think. Yeah, pears, and so forth. From trees that he had planted. And we'd sit in the kitchen, and Arlene, my wife, would bring out some of her great coffee. And Art would put 4 or 5 or 6 teaspoons full of sugar in that cup of coffee, or he'd have a root beer float, which was another one of his favorites. Now, that was the last time I saw Art. We went through that regimen in the kitchen, and we traded stories going back to, brace yourself, 65 years. Art could have told me exactly how many years and how many months and the date, perhaps. And if he didn't think of it then, he'd have gone home and looked through his, what would you call that?
I'm not sure. It's mine.
Art was a gatherer all his life. He gathered things and he took care of things. And he gathered people. And he took care of people. I'm one of the ones he took care of. I knew Art when he and Ed, his twin, identical twin, came to San Jose State as freshmen from Los Banos. And he came not as a student, really, but both of them were soon known as people with a great deal to share and offer to the scientific faculty at San Jose State. The Smith brothers were renowned on campus, and they were loved. I was one of the few, I'm proud to say, others could identify them one from another. I used to tell Art that Ed was better looking and smarter, and I tell Ed that Art was better looking and smarter, and we got along for all the years at San Jose State until graduation. I was a sophomore when those twins came on campus, and then after graduation, we graduated at the same time. We went to Stanford Graduate School, and Art and Ed bunked in a room right across from me in Encina Hall, where the graduate students were. The freshmen were on the other stores, and my room was right across from Ed and Art's, and I plagued them constantly. Art is particularly important to me because of our intersections at different times in our lives. There at San Jose State, then at Stanford, then the twins became secondary school science teachers. I volunteered for the draft to save the world for democracy at that time because I wanted to get out at a certain time to get a job in some high school. I didn't see Art until I got out of the infantry and into the Air Corps, and they sent me to Lowry Field because I'd flunked out of flying. And at graduation, where we got our second lieutenant bars, I remember the procedure where all of these young cadets were lined up in Lowry Field at Denver, And Art and Ed saw me from way across the field, and we intersected again. Art and Ed then came back into my life. They spent a lot of time at the apartment my wife and I had rented in Denver. And Art and Ed pulled that trite old trick of changing seats at the dinner table when my wife was in the kitchen. And then, of course, I always felt they could have been more creative, but that's the kind of thing they did. And later on, they did something else, which I don't know whether you're going to tell about that, Terry, or not.
I'll tell it if you like later.
I think you should tell that. Well, after the war, I lost track of Art for a while until I had a job at Berkeley, and Art had a job with the state, and his office was right across from Haviland Hall. I ran into Art, and we would have lunch many, many times together. After that, I went into teaching in the community college, and Art started the biology department at Cal State in the old high school, Hayward High School, I think. And he pulled his muscle and got me a job as a department chairman in School of Education. So Art and I, again, intersected. He was, as I said previously, a gatherer. He gathered things, he took care of things, and he took care of people. And I love that man, and I'm very, very glad to be here and say a few things about my friend, Art Smith.
Thank you very much.